Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to ask and maybe answer a very important question that concerns us all. Whose duty, in the first panel, whose duty is it actually to finance art and culture?
I started my career as a sponsorship manager in a theatre, so I still love sponsorship, I have to say.
So my occupation was always dealing with financing culture, let's say, and basically working always in the public sector.
We are from the other side, so basically the receivers of those kind of funds. Because I'm coming from this small non-governmental, non-profit culture organization from Novi Sad in Serbia.
I'm here presenting the private sector. The foundation is the main shareholder of the bank, of the Erste Group, and all the dividends that the Erste Foundation earns with the profit of the bank is invested into the common good, or is going back to the countries where the bank makes money.
No one questions the necessity to subsidize, to finance health, but when it comes to arts and culture, which is part of our psychological health and of our happiness, there is also always a discussion. Like, why do you think that it's a public needs, and you, in your position, how do you cope with this public need?
When you ask me through email, is there a public need and who has to finance art or a culture, I said there is a public responsibility, definitely, but as well other responsibilities of others.
So I think it's difficult to talk about the duty, but as Anja said, it is really the responsibility of the national culture ministries to finance arts and culture. I mean, why, if not for this, is a culture ministry existing?
The Croatia style, let's say, or the Croatia way of organizing financing is always going through the Ministry of Culture, and this is why I'm telling that there is a public responsibility of it.
And where I see the difference between me and you, or between a private foundation or a private body and a public body, is that we do not have a cultural political mission, and the people in the ministries or people working in public bodies do have.
The Ministry of Culture is responsible to give this platform and this possibility to develop different system of financing and co-financing art.
A well-developed society cannot live without arts. It's a human nature.
But I would say that there are some aspects that are pointing out that the role in some particular cases of art and culture is changing today.
The recent developments are about to postpone or to delegate this beauty to the smaller pieces of the society. You may call it decentralization.
There is also a direction towards creative industries, that the culture ministries are interested also in this sector, because this is where also money could be created.
So first of all, there are activities who can live on the market, and I think more and more of activities of this kind are visible.
Is it maybe that state is starting to treat arts and culture as an instrument, and therefore it withdraws its overall subsidies and focuses on subsidizing certain streams of art? And which are they then? How come this impression?
From a personal experience working at the ministry and at the CCP, you know that we are trying to find co-finances for all different types of projects. I think that the main problem with the culture is that ministry cannot give for every excellent project, which is the national or international or European project, all the amount of money, because there is not enough money.
This is a kind of restructuring process in the field of financing culture.
What artists and culture operators should do is trying to find other funds, to match funds between different calls.
The state is withdrawing from financing culture, local governments are coming up.
There is a vast range of how the art or the culture in general can be financed.
The question is what will happen if the responsibility goes to local level and regional level. One may say that this is a kind of regionalization process of sharing responsibility, but what will happen with the quality?
So you have to work to come up to and to apply to more and more projects in order to have the minimum funding to realize something. And then you have this overproductivity jumping from one project to another, and then you can ask what happens with the evaluation of the project, self-evaluation, effects on the society, reaching the audience, etc. In the same time, it's we can say that it's a kind of underproductivity, especially because of the quality of that kind of production. I think is decreasing.
If you have a creative idea, 10 years ago, the first thing that you would have done was to go to the state or the city council or the cultural fund. I have a brilliant idea, please give me a grant.
But what I see as a very clear problem working at the ministry is that very often they forgot when is the deadline to apply for different calls in the ministry. So I think the communication is very important as well. The ministry is not something, it's not that I am promoting the ministry, but there are people really working at the ministries willing to help to artists and to culture field in general, to all culture operators.
I think what was talked now a little bit too little about was also this cultural financing by the European Union that is provided, because this also very often comes in when the national culture ministries do not have money or not enough money.
The huge problems are that on the national level sometimes the projects are not co-financed by the ministry or the local or regional governments, but on the European level the projects are very successful.
Cultural operators now can apply for the structural fund, the European Union structural fund, and especially the social fund of human resource development.
We should be aware that on the national level, the ministries or the local or regional government had their priorities, which projects and artists to finance or co-finance, and what is the main strategy behind that. It's like it's a duty, I would say, and responsibility. On the other hand, the cooperative sector has its own reasons.
You have to justify yourself for what you do, but a private company does not have. As the foundation wants to shape its own profile. So you have these people who are experts in their fields with whom you are working, and this is at least how we are doing it. And also in the sponsorship department in the bank, they have certain parameters. So they also have a cultural and the social funding structures, and this goes along certain parameters.
Janos, you also mentioned something about the role of the media. Can we use, in a good sense or even in a bad sense, the media to get sponsored? Or
theme in the media is very influencing on cultural consumption. You need projects to raise interest, and to raise interest of the media, to have more visitors, bigger audience, and at the end you will have a financial benefit of the whole process. But you have to build up a process first.
I would like to have a final advice from our two financiers here at the panel, at Christiane and Anja. What would you say are the three main points that people who want to apply, apart from the date that we heard already, should care for?
To have a good idea which is implemented on the paper. And if we are talking about artists, it's always to work on and to apply at the ministries and other sources to be co-financed.
Structural fund in the European Union and including the pre-accession funds are spending much more, 15 times more on culture than the culture program of the European Union. If I would be a museum director or a cultural operator in this field, I would go for a structural fund.
I think there is two things that we are doing. We do support projects. That means, for example, somebody asks us, listen, we have this project, there is already money coming from the European Union, from the ministry or from whomever, could you also step in with a certain amount? Another way of funding is that people approach us in the very beginning and say, listen, I have a great idea, would you be interested to collaborate? Or
I think the communication is the most important thing, that we are communicating, talking, discussing, and bringing out the results that will facilitate to the artists and the culture sectors and to the public.
But probably it would be good that you hire some curators in the ministry. I mean, I also have a background. I studied art, I'm trained as an artist, and then I worked in the curatorial field, and I see also my work in Erste Foundation as curatorial work, although I'm not putting up exhibitions every day.
I'm interested what is the situation in Austria regarding the private sponsorship and regarding the creation of foundation, like donating money to art and culture, how this works with tax?
Donations made for cultural purposes to associations and other legal entities engaged in cultural activities are not taxed. Donations of up to 2% of the donor's total annual income are recognized as such by law. And this is, if you're interested about the taxes in Croatia.
I would say that private sponsoring of culture is not something very elaborated in Austria. It is quite new. So I think that there is not so many foundations that have this mission to invest their dividends or their interests into the common good. And then when it comes to buying arts, for example, I don't think that Austria has such a good such good laws that there is a lot of tax relief when you buy art.
So you do have some benefits, but definitely you wouldn't buy arts just because of the big tax relief.
The sponsorship is a very demanding relationship, and I think that that I miss the words actually strategy on the both sides, on the holder and on the sponsor on one side, and the relationship.
I don't use the word strategy in the last 5-6 years when meeting with cultural managers, because they don't like this word. But I'm absolutely sure that you are right in saying the strategy is one of the most important framework of a project for targeting the sponsor.
Okay, I would like to thank very much the panelists that they helped entering into this ambivalent topic of the beauty and the arts.